Hello there, everybody. Welcome to Season 2, Episode 19, Human Connection Fear, Part 5, Clash of Beliefs. My name is Thaddeus Sims, and I am the host, the founder, and CEO of Konnekt7. And this particular episode, I'm actually really excited to talk about because your boy has experienced a lot of clash of beliefs since the beginning, just as everybody else has. So, before I get into all of this, there will not be any announcement or questions or gut checks this episode, but it will be next episode. So we're going to finish off this series. This is the final episode of Human Connection Fears. Also, I am adding something different. So, in the description below, I'm experimenting with something. I would like to really share or give you all some extra educational content. So for each episode, I'm working on creating like a PDF or some slides. So some takeaways pretty much from the episode. So that way, if you heard something really good in there and it was a certain point, you can actually just click on the link and be able to like keep the information or save it, download it. So I'm working on that, so that way you guys just are able to retain the information you get from the podcast. So that's something new. It'll be in the link in the description, so wherever you are listening to the episode, you should be able to click on it and go from there. Now, I think that's all I have for you on that. So let us get into the fun fact, which is the word burrito means little donkey in Spanish. I did not know that. Maybe because I don't eat burritos like that. My sister does. But this is because a burrito can carry many things just like a donkey can. I'm really trying to see if I go to Chipotle, can I say, hey, can I have a little donkey? But could you please make sure you put extra guacamole in my little donkey? And I'm going to say it with a straight face like that. Like, I'm like, a what? Like a burrito, little donkey, that. Oh, okay. Yeah, but make sure you have extra guacamole in my little donkey. Like, I'm gonna say it just like, but I can't see my facial expression because we're wearing masks nowadays. So that's America for you. But yeah, that's the fun fact, guys. My sister's probably gonna look at this and be like, you didn't know that? Shame. But here we are, from me to you. So let us talk about clash of beliefs, because this human connection fear is quite prevalent in a lot of things, right? I can go everywhere with this, but I'm gonna stay in town with this. So let's talk about this fear. What do I mean by clash of beliefs, right? When it comes to people who have different spiritual beliefs, people who have religious beliefs, people who just have completely different beliefs, like culturally, different things like that, right? Me personally, growing up, my experience was I was growing up in a Christian background, went to church, but we wasn't like, fully like, go to church, or what I mean, like it wasn't crazy, it was kind of chill, but when I was younger, a lot of things just didn't make sense to me. So I would have different experiences, and so when I was in church, the pastor would say something and I'm like, no, that's not right. Like I was a kid and I just was aware of certain stuff. So just to really explain what I mean, was like I would remember, just some people say past lives, different things like that. So I just would remember that. And so in particular, like with my mom, I don't know, I was just like, you were like my sister last lifetime, so now I'm your son. So this is kind of interesting. It was just little things that just kind of came to me, and I would just remember certain stuff. I mean, I remember being born. I remember being conscious in my mother's womb and stuff like that. It's just very funny. So it was just certain things that was said, like, okay, when you die, that's it. And I was just like, no, that doesn't make sense, because I remember the last one before here. So it was just for me, right? This is just my experience. I'm not saying, hey, this is true. Like, no, this is just what I experienced. And so growing up, I had a lot of questions, because as I was developing, I was starting to pick up on things, read people. I didn't know what that was at the time. I would just get stuff as a kid, and I just was like, okay, well, Mom, what does this mean? And she couldn't really tell me. And so, being in church, the pastor would say something, and the next thing the more the more I grew up, I started to just really fall asleep in church. But it wasn't like I was tired. It would be I was fully energized, but the minute I walked into a church building, I would just get sleepy, like dead tired. Like I am like out. But the minute I walk out, I am back and full of energy. And that has always stuck with me. Even to this day, if I'm in a place like a church for too long for some type of event, I start to get sleepy, and I could have had at least 10 hours of sleep, and I'm like, I'm tired. And I learned that was like when I grew up and learned more about myself, it was like that was a defense mechanism, in the sense of like, yeah, you needed to go to sleep so you didn't get all of that in you. So growing up, I mean, I had to have my journey. We're not going to go through all of that, but let's just say I went through a journey of just really figuring out what was my path and of things like that in life. And so as I grew up, I experienced like, okay, well, I guess I kind of have to go a little bit into it just for you guys to understand what I mean. I'm pretty sure you guys can relate in your own way. So growing up in a Christian household wasn't for me. Then I was like, okay, this isn't for me, but what is for me? So I was like, well, I'm not atheist or anything. I'm like, I believe there's this power, but I don't really know. Then I learned, oh wait, there's, Cherokee, Native American in the blood. So I was like, well, okay, let me see what they were into. And I looked, and it was like spiritual, one with nature. And I was like, this feels right. And so I started getting more into it. I started learning a little bit more into it. And it just felt right. Like I was getting answers. It was making sense. And then I took things from there, and then I was just starting to develop more of my intuition, and I would just be able to, just read people more. Then it just developed into where I was just able to just pick up energies, spirits, then my ancestors. So all of that just kind of just opened up on this path. And of course, comes the clashes. Right? So I would meet people who just kind of picked up like I wasn't Christian or anything. And they was like, oh, so I could feel the energy, like trying to dig in and see, okay, so what is it? Because you're obviously not Christian. So what are you? And I was like, I just listen, I just read energy, spirits and stuff like that. And immediately, oh, you're talking to demons. I'm like, what? Like, yeah, you're talking to demons. I'm like, but I'm not. And it was like, yeah, that's witchcraft. That's demons. That's the devil. You need to stop that. You're going to hell and all this, that, and the other. And so that's what I was just constantly getting, like, okay, well, gosh, don't let me say anything about energy, because that's the devil. And I say, oh yeah, I see the spirit. Like sometimes it'd be their ancestors, or it'd be a spirit wherever we're at. I'm like, oh, I see the spirit. And it's like, oh, that's a demon. You shouldn't be like getting into that. I'm like, okay. But along the journey, I had to understand that, everybody has their different experiences. Everybody has their different beliefs. Everybody has a different upbringing. And it just, that it took some time to get there. But I will not lie. In the beginning, I really kind of got defensive. I was just ready to comfort people because I was just like breaking stuff down and it was just a lot of stuff. Like my ancestors, the spirits would just talk to me. Nature would just speak with me, especially when I just kind of got lost on things. And it was just like, hey, don't let this person's beliefs cloud you. Don't let them, have you have all these fears and stuff like that. So eventually at a period of time, it got to a point where I was a little bit like I was afraid to share my beliefs, but everybody else around me who was, again, and I want to say I'm not attacking people who are Christian. I'm only just saying this has just been my experience and my upbringing. So let me just say that I have friends who are Christian and they are awesome, very open-minded and super, super cool. So let me just say that this is not a badge. I'm just telling you from my experience what I just got. And so at a certain point, people would just ask, oh, so what do you do? What are you into? And I'm like, oh, well, can't say meditation. Can't say that. I'm like, oh, I would have to think of something. Oh, I play video games, work. And after a while, that fear of sharing what my beliefs were, it kind of just really cut me off from like who I truly am. And it was just really just messing up my connections with people. And so I kind of had to work through that with the help of, at the time, my spirit guides, my ancestors, my intuition, inner self, all of that source, whatever you name it. And so after I got through that with the help, I just started to be open. I was like, you know what? F this. Like, this is what I'm like. You can say, oh, bless you, praise the Lord and this. But if I say, oh, well, I send a lot of positive energy your way or meditate on that, you're like, no, like, you're not going to tell me, bitch, you're not going to tell me that's bad. So after I got bold and courageous with myself, I didn't care no more. And once I started to do that, I was attracting awesome people, very different people. And I liked it. Like, go to the park and you see somebody look like they're trying to water bin type thing. And I'm just like, they look different. I'm going to talk to them. And we became great friends. Or I go somewhere else and I'm like, they're talking and they're like, like the energy in this is how they spoke. I'm not picking on them, but they're like, like the energy in the area is just like so tranquil, like, and I'm just like, yeah, like I feel it was like, yeah, like if you just sit here and be in the moment and just like absorb it, like you can feel it within you, man. And like it was funny. I can't really, it's like that's really how they sounded, but I got what they were talking about. I was like, yes, I wasn't on that level, like, like epic eye, man, like totally soaking the rays, but it was just so funny. And I'm like, all right, I like this person. And we just really had really deep conversations, and that fed my soul, right? So I'm going to take this back, right? I'm going to rewind this with this fear. So I'm sure a lot of you can kind of relate to my story in your own particular way, depending on what your beliefs are, right? And the things you've learned, your upbringing, your personal experiences, right? And when you meet other people, you may come across people who are either one, they just immediately assume you believe what they believe, and then they tell you you're wrong. Or they may be open-minded and be like, oh, sorry, microphone. They may be open-minded and just be like, okay, that's cool. Tell me more. I had a little mix of that. But I'm taking it back to where you guys can experience what I'm saying too. And I don't know about you, but maybe you did experience that period of, ooh, I don't want to share because I don't want to deal with people sensitive, people attack now, people, you have an opinion or you have a difference. Let's kill him. Let's kill her. So I don't know if you experienced that. And so you got to a point where you're just like, yeah, I'm just not going to say nothing. I'm not going to do that. Right. And I come to find that when you do that, you're shrinking yourself, right? It may not seem like it is. You may seem like I don't have time for people or I don't want to do that. But when you personally say, yeah, I'm not going to express, like you, in a way, you shrink yourself. You're not really letting your genuine, just being, your energy just out, right? And I've come to find to be like that, you yourself have to be open to the differences, to other people and their beliefs and things like that. it took me a while to kind of like Christians again. Because I had to understand, like, hey, dude, different experiences, different upbringings. Like I said, that took me some time to get to. I've had people challenge me on my beliefs. I won, but I had people challenge me on my beliefs and things like that. And after a while, it was just like, I'm not trying to challenge you. Like, at this point, it's just like, dude, sis, if that's for you, that's for you. That works. But tell me more about who you are. Besides that, what are you into? What are your fears? What are you working on? Are you, like deeper questions? Like, are you afraid of success or failure? Like, why? Different stuff, right? And so that took some time to just really understand, like, hey, I have different beliefs too. And this doesn't have to clash. But if it's an issue with you, then you're not someone I want to be like in my space, right? And so that took years. And I'm going back to this connection is because I don't know if it's, what is it? Like, there's things you don't talk about. I think it's money, religion, and politics or something like that. So religion was kind of in there. But I've come to find that when it comes to connecting with people, if you're open-minded and you're not judging because you don't want nobody to judge you and attack you, right? So when you have that energy and you're just being open, like, you can really ask people like, so why is that your belief? And not in an attacking way, but just the curiosity to get to know their story. Like, there's a reason why they have this experience. There's a reason why they believe the things that they do. So instead of telling them that they're wrong, ask them, why? Like, I'm curious, tell me your story. And you will find that people probably be a little shocked because it's like, oh, human beings actually wanted to know more about me. That's another episode. But when they tell you, it's like you give that person a chance to really just kind of show who they really are and just like why, and then you just see just a little bit more about them, right? It's part of the connection. But this can be a big fear because a lot of us are afraid of the clash. We're afraid of the the challenge or the clapbacks or this person saying I'm wrong or whatever it is. Like, it's just all of these fears, and we just like, what, I'd rather not deal with it. So like I said, when you do that, you shrink yourself. Now let's talk about, I gave you examples of it. So let's just talk about the cure for this particular fear. So the first thing, when it comes to number one, just connecting with people and it comes with different beliefs, you need to be grounded and like really firm, have a strong foundation in your own beliefs, right? It has to start with you, because if not, somebody may say something and it throws you off. So number one, you have to have this like foundation, this firmness in your beliefs, right? And you have to own that, right? How do you do that? Is just keep doing it, keep practicing, keep learning. If it serves you, if it makes you feel good, it's helping other people, then by all means do it. And understand that other people are not going to see it the way you do, because they did not have, number one, your personal experiences. They didn't have your upbringing and all of the reasons that led you to that. So that's the first thing, is you have to be really grounded into your own thing. The second thing I would say is you just have to be open, really open, and just accept everybody's gonna be different from what you believe. And that is okay. Differences are great. Differences are okay. You don't want everybody to be the same. Understand that differences are the best. You can learn from differences. You can see certain things. Just to give you some examples, just with that openness, is I have friends who have, like I said, a lot of different beliefs. I met some people who are like Buddhists. I have some friends who are like witches. I have some friends who do voodoo. I have friends who, again, I think I said Christian, Hindu, and just a whole bunch of just different things. And I come to find, like, I learned so much from everybody, and it's just like I see the commonalities, like the love and the connection, and it's just being a good person, and just this energy, this source is just it's so much learning, right? And it gets me to learn more about them and their culture and why, and the stereotypes with it, and why they feel the way they do, or what's their different take on it. So you have to be open to that, right? And once you're open, it just creates this, like, I don't know, it's like a clearing, like, okay, I'm not gonna be shocked. I'm not gonna be shocked. I'm gonna taste this and I won't be shocked that someone's not different. So that's good, right? So that's the second thing, being open. And then the third thing with just carrying this fear is really just being you, right? Like, if your beliefs require you to go out to the ocean, blow in a shell, or conch shell, blow in a shell, and praise whoever you need to praise, do it. Okay? If it requires you to go to the graveyard, do it. If your beliefs require you to, trying to really tap into all my different friends here, but if your beliefs require you to do things under the full moon, do it. If it requires you to go to a building with other people who are like-minded, do it, right? Like, just do your thing and don't be afraid. And you will find that when you're just doing your thing, you will meet other people. It's just like you're a magnet. You will meet other people like you. And then you'll meet other people who are just different, but it just comes together. And like, I found some people who are like, I would talk with them and they would just have a really good conversation. I'm thinking they're kind of on the same wavelength as me. And they would just say, oh yeah, no, I'm Christian. I'm like, really? Interesting. And they would tell me their perspective. Or I talked with the person and I would have never guessed it, but they were saying like they're into Buddhism. And I was like, really? I would have never picked that up. And tell me more. So, and then there's other ones. There are some that I can't remember the words from because I think they're in a different language, but there are some that are just very, like, when I say out there, I mean that out there because it's not something that I have experienced personally around me. So it's cool and I would like to know more, right? So that's really the third thing, just being like you. Now, all of that is easy, right? I'm making that sound all easy, but I'm not gonna lie to y'all. There are also obviously a little steps in between all of those three things that I mentioned, and that depends on you. That depends on you really just owning your thing, not just shrinking yourself, really, being rooted in whatever it is that you believe. And if you're not like completely like rooted in it, it's okay. Discover, right? Like, all of that really requires a lot of personal work. Like I said, this, for me to get to where I'm at now, to even say this and this is being broadcasted to everybody in the world, yeah, this took years in the making, right? This took, okay, let me reflect on myself. Let me look on my fears. Let me look on, is it because, like, what's going on? And I found, like, in the little steps in between of doing this was like, okay, you have a fear of what other people think of you, but this particular subject. So you need to work on that. Okay, you have a lot of information about yourself, but it's a lot of doubt because of what the outside world is telling you about what you personally know to be true for you, right? Or you need to really just sit down and meditate and really get the information that you need for yourself, because you don't feel, you have a lot of doubts. Let's clear up the doubts. Okay, now you salty about how a lot of other people came at you. What you gonna do with that? You gonna come at them, or you gonna understand that they y'all at a different space, and that's okay. Now I gotta work on that. Or, okay, I don't like how everybody can say all of their stuff, but the minute I said, the spirit said, you looking at me like I just summoned a demon and I want your soul, like, bruh, so what you gonna do? It was a lot of things in between that you personally have to work through to get to these big steps. I made it sound easy, but I'm not gonna lie to you. When it comes to connecting with people, y'all should know the hint by now. If you're new, I'm gonna just tell you, the biggest thing I tell people on this podcast is that it starts with you. It always starts with you. You have to work on you to get here. When it comes to connecting with people, you have to connect with yourself. So there's things you're going to have to work on to connect with people. So for you who are new, this is your first episode. That's pretty much the genre. Not the genre, but that's the core of everything on this podcast. But for y'all who've been here, coming at y'all again, it's just like, it starts with you. And all of you have different experiences. You all have different fears, different traumas that you need to work through. And that is okay. It's a process, right? And once you just get through that, like that's how you tackle that fear. And then when you're just being yourself and you're just going around, just vibing out, doing your thing, people are like, oh, you're different. And it's like, you have to be humble. I'm like, no, I'm just a regular degular, you know, like, no, like you're different. And it's like, you don't have to be humble. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, if I'm going to be humble, you seen that? How far away did you see it? It was big, wasn't it? This light was huge, you know, like, thank you, you know? So you have to just be you guys, just be you. And it just gets fun from there. And that's really just how you tackle this fear. And once you do, you will find that just connecting with other human beings ain't really all that hard. There's really not much fear. I would say out of this whole little mini series it's just you. It starts with you, and you just take little baby steps, and that's how you cure these fears, is by facing it. Because again, if you're the first person like, yeah, I'm not fitting to get into this with that person, I will say, if you keep doing that, you will be shrinking yourself. But for those of you who read energy and you know it's just not worth your energy, that's a different story by all means, right? So I'm just saying that. But with that being said, guys, that's it for this episode. I'm really excited, actually. Like, I really hope you guys got something from this, right? When it just comes to connecting with people, because connecting with people is just really awesome. And again, we're all interdependent, and we need each other. You know, even if you want to deny it, even if you want to say you don't like, you know, humans, the human race. And even if you're sometimes like, Earth is just ghetto, and that's okay too. But, you know, at the end of the day, we still need each other. So with that being said, guys, you all are awesome. Thank you for listening and pressing play. I am back